You're scrolling through social media and another engagement announcement pops up. Someone you went to college with, maybe someone younger than you, and there's that familiar tightness in your chest. It's not quite jealousy, not quite sadness, but somewhat closer to panic because the voice in your head is getting louder. Everyone else is moving forward, and I'm still single. There's a belief that I hear more than almost any other when men first reach out to work with me, and it shows up in different words depending on who's saying it, but the core concern is the same. I feel like it's too late for me. Sometimes it sounds like I'm in my mid-30s and I focus so much on building my career that I never really learned how to date. Now I have no idea what I'm doing, and everyone else seems to just know. I feel so behind. I also hear I've always been shy. I've never been able to just walk up to someone and start a conversation. Now I'm in my 30s and I still don't know how to make the first move. How do I catch up when I'm this far behind? Other times it's I've been on dating apps for years, hundreds of matches, first dates, and I cannot remember the last time I made it past date 3. Are all fill in the blank crazy or fucked up? Is it something I'm doing wrong? I'm so tired, it doesn't even feel worth the effort anymore. These may sound like different experiences on the surface. One person feels like they never got started, the other feels like they've tried everything and failed. But in reality, these are two sides of the same coin. And if you've ever felt either behind or burnt the fuck out in dating, this episode is for you. You're listening to Stripped, Drop Your Patterns with me, Rachel J., the Connection Coach. Stick around. Throw out the rules, forget the cliches. This isn't about the perfect profile or the perfect date. It's about real connection. It's time to strip away the masks, shed the stories, and drop those old patterns that no longer serve you. Tired of dating advice that doesn't fit? So are we. Welcome to Stripped, Drop Your Patterns, where conscious dating isn't about following a script. It's about embracing your whole self and attracting the kind of love that sets your soul on fire. I'm Rachel J., the Connection Coach and your host. Let's get real. Allow me to start by saying this clearly. You are not too late and you are not behind. And I know that might sound like empty reassurance, especially if you've been carrying one of these stories for a while. But I'm not just asking you to think positive or trust the process or any of that surface level advice. I'm asking you to understand what's actually happening in your nervous system when you tell yourself these stories, because that's where the real shift happens. Now let's start with those who feel inexperienced or behind. And I want to paint a fuller picture because this shows up in ways that might surprise you. Let's start with those who feel inexperienced or behind. And I want to paint a fuller picture here because this shows up in ways that you might not be aware of. So maybe you're the person who spent your 20s and early 30s climbing the career ladder. You checked every box, the degree, the promotion, the apartment, the financial stability. You did everything you were told would make you ready for a relationship. But here's the thing, nobody taught you how to actually date, how to flirt, how to read signals, how to create chemistry. So now you're looking around thinking, okay, I have my life together, but why is this the one thing I can't seem to figure out? And there's this creeping fear that you waited too long, that everyone else paired off while you were busy achieving, or that all the good ones are taken, and now you're somehow too late to the party. Or maybe you're someone who's always been shy. Maybe you struggled with social anxiety or just didn't have many opportunities to date. Maybe you had one or two relationships that didn't work out and then years passed without much happening. Perhaps you're neurodivergent and social cues don't come naturally. The idea of approaching someone, initiating conversation, making yourself vulnerable, it's not just uncomfortable, it feels almost impossible. So years go by. You watch other people seemingly effortlessly connect while you're paralyzed by the fear of doing it wrong, saying the wrong thing, being misunderstood, feeling rejected. And the longer this goes on, the more that fear builds. And here's what I want women listening to understand. When you meet a man who seems hesitant or awkward or overly careful, this might be why. It's not that he's not interested or that he's playing games. His nervous system might be running a program that says, you don't know how to do this, or you're going to mess this up, or they're going to make fun of you. That's conditioning too. Often men are taught that they have to initiate, have to lead, have to know what they're doing, but they're rarely taught how, at least how to effectively initiate or lead. And when that programming meets inexperience, it creates that paralysis. What all of these scenarios have in common is shame. That feeling of being behind creates a sense of deficiency that's absolutely corrosive to self-esteem and confidence. And shame is one of the most powerful nervous system disruptors that there are. When you're operating from shame, your body is in a state of threat. You're not showing up as yourself. You're showing up as someone trying desperately not to be found out, not to reveal that you're inexperienced, not to do the wrong thing. So you overthink everything. You second guess your instincts. You monitor yourself constantly. And the very thing that you're trying to hide, the fact that you feel uncertain, becomes the thing that's most visible because your energy is contracted and self-protective rather than staying open and curious. And then on the other side of the coin, we have those who feel jaded. You've been out there, you've put in the effort. Men, maybe you've been rejected repeatedly, ghosted after what seemed like great dates, told you're great, but so many times that you've lost count. And women, maybe you've been love bombed and then discarded, kept as a maybe while he explored other options, or consistently attracted people who just can't commit for one reason or another. And at some point, your nervous system made a very logical conclusion. This doesn't work for me. I'm over it. I have to accept that I'm going to die alone, maybe with 15 cats, and I'm okay with that. And that's valid. If you've had that experience repeatedly, of course your system would protect you by lowering your expectations, numbing out a little, by approaching dating with a kind of weary resignation. Your nervous system isn't being pessimistic, it's trying to keep you from getting hurt again. But here's the problem. When you're approaching dating from that place of, well, this probably won't work anyway, then you're not actually showing up available for connection. Sure, you're going through the motions, swiping, messaging, going on dates, but there's a part of you that is already checked out, already braced for the disappointment, already halfway out the door, ready to bolt at the first sign of trouble. And guess what? You've been listening to me for a while now, so you're aware that people feel that, not consciously necessarily, but energetically for sure. There's an incongruence between what you're saying, which is, I'm interested in getting to know you and giving this a real shot, and what your system is communicating, which is, I don't really believe this will go anywhere. So here's what I want you to see. Whether you're the inexperienced person operating from shame or the jaded one operating from protection, you're both relating to dating as something that's happening to you rather than something you're actively creating. The inexperienced dater is thinking, I don't know how to do this right, and it's obvious. And the jaded one is thinking, I've tried everything and nothing works, so why would this time be different? Both of those are stories about powerlessness. Both of those put you in a reactive position where you're just hoping things work out rather than understanding that you have agency here. Now, let me break down what's actually happening somatically, because this is not just mental, this is in your body. When you believe that you're behind, your nervous system interprets social and romantic situations as higher stakes. There's more to lose, more to prove. So your body might be subtly tense, your breathing might be shallow, you might be hyper aware of how you're being perceived. All of that signals to the other person, again, not consciously, but on a felt level, that you're not comfortable in your own skin. And that is what's a turnoff. So for men especially, there's often an added layer here because you've been conditioned to believe that you should already know how to do this, or that asking for help or admitting uncertainty isn't masculine. So then that shame gets compounded. It's not just I'm behind, it's I should know this and I don't, which means I'm failing at being a man. And that's a lot of weight to carry into a first date. And women, you might experience this differently, but just as intensely. Maybe you were taught that your value is in being chosen. So if you haven't been chosen yet or keep attracting the wrong people, then the story might become, well, something's wrong with me. That creates its own nervous system response, either performing to be more appealing or withdrawing to protect yourself from more rejection. When you believe that it's too late, your nervous system has likely moved into a state of learned helplessness because you've had enough experiences of things not working out that your nervous system has basically concluded that effort doesn't matter because the outcome is predetermined. So then there's a flatness and a resignation and a real lack of aliveness that comes through even when you're trying to be engaged. People can tell if you're already checked out. And here's the thing, neither of these states is your fault. Your nervous system is doing exactly what it's designed to do. It's trying to protect you based on the data that it has. The inexperienced dater system is saying, be careful, you don't know what you're doing, tread lightly. And the jaded dater system is saying, don't get your hopes up because it never works out. But just because these responses are understandable doesn't mean they're serving you. Because what actually creates attraction, what actually allows for genuine connection, drumroll please, that's terrible, but you get the idea, is presence. It's being in your body, grounded in yourself, available to the moment without being collapsed in shame or armored in cynicism. And the good news, the really good news actually, is that presence isn't something you either have or you don't. It's a skill that you can learn. It's something you can cultivate. And it has nothing to do with how much experience you have or how many times you've been disappointed in the past. Let's drop the small talk for a second and talk about the expensive truth of your dating life. If you're a successful man and you're still playing the trial and error game, it's already costing you thousands. Between the $300 first dates, the app boosts, the grooming, and the logistics, the average high performer is burning $10,000 to $30,000 every year. And that's just the visible money. The real cost? The emotional hit of a conversation that goes nowhere. The drop in confidence. And the most expensive asset you own, your time. Staying in a broken dating cycle isn't just frustrating, it's financially irrational. That is exactly why I built the Magnetism Mastery System, available exclusively on the Magnetic app. I'm Rachel J., the Connection Coach. We don't do pickup lines or scripts. We dismantle the invisible attraction patterns that dictate who you pursue and who actually lasts. Through simple, daily exercises done on your own schedule, you'll see transformative results in as little as 6 weeks. Most men don't need more dates. They need fewer wrong ones. Magnetic is designed to save your bank account and your emotional bandwidth. Join the waitlist today by going to theconnectioncoachonline.kit.com/magnet. Stop the cycle. Get on the list. Change dating forever. So let me offer you a different way to think about this. If you're the one who feels inexperienced, what if your lack of dating history isn't a deficit, but actually a clean slate? What if you don't have years of baggage and cynicism and unhelpful patterns to unlearn? What if you get to build your relational capacity from a state of intention rather than trial and error? For those of you who focused on achievement, building your career, getting financially stable, checking all the boxes, you did what you were conditioned to do. You followed the script, and now you're ready for the relationship part, but you're realizing that the same strategies that worked in your career don't translate to dating. You can't optimize or strategize your way into genuine connection. And I get it, that can feel incredibly disorienting. But here's what I want you to see. You've already proven that you can learn complex skills and that you can commit to something long term, that you can show up consistently. Those are massive assets in a relationship. What you're missing isn't capacity, it's just practice in a different domain. And the fact that you're willing to acknowledge that, to be humble enough to admit that you don't have all the answers right now, that's actually incredibly attractive. And for those of you who've been held back by shyness or social anxiety or neurodivergence, first, I want you to know that needing more time to feel comfortable processing social situations differently or struggling with initiation does not make you broken or unlovable. It makes you someone whose nervous system works differently. And in a world that often rewards extroversion and quick connection, I know that can feel like a mark against you. But what if it's not? What if the person who's right for you actually values depth over small talk, appreciates directness over game playing, and is drawn to your sincerity rather than put off by your hesitation? Those people exist, and the work isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about building enough internal security that you can show up as yourself without apologizing for it. I've worked with men in their late 20s, 30s, and 40s who had very little dating experience, but once they did the internal work, once they addressed that shame, built genuine self-worth, learned how to be present, authentic, and engaging, they were able to create healthy, fulfilling relationships remarkably quickly because they weren't dragging around all the stories and wounds that come from years of unfulfilling dating. So what I want you to know is that you're not behind. You're just on a different timeline. And if you're willing to do the deeper work now, not just learning tactics and strategies, but actually to build a solid internal foundation, then you'll be miles ahead of those who've been dating for years but never questioned their patterns and ended up in incompatible, unfulfilling relationships. And on the other side of the coin, if you're the one who feels jaded, what if your exhaustion isn't evidence that dating doesn't work for you, but actually evidence that you've been approaching it from just a misaligned place? What if all those disappointing experiences were your system trying to tell you something? Not that you're unlovable and that no one will choose you, but that you were operating from conditioning rather than authenticity. Think about it. If you've been trying to be what you think you should be, performing a version of yourself that you thought was more acceptable or attractive, then of course it feels exhausting. Of course it hasn't worked. You were wearing a mask. You weren't actually showing up as you. And I know that might sting to hear, like, great, so all that effort was wasted. But no, every one of those experiences taught you something about what doesn't work. So now you have data. But now you have data, okay? And if you're willing to get curious about the pattern underneath the pattern, not just this person wasn't interested, but what was I believing about myself and what I had to offer when I was pursuing them, then all of that becomes incredibly valuable information. So don't look at it as starting over. You're starting from a place of much greater self-awareness, and that's actually an enormous advantage. Use that data to tune the radio dial. So, what does this look like practically? How do you actually shift out of these states? Well, first you have to recognize the story that you're telling yourself. Not judge it, not shame yourself for having it, just see it clearly for what it is. I tell myself I'm behind. I tell myself it's too late. I tell myself dating doesn't work for me. And then notice, what does that story feel like in your body? When you say that to yourself, where in your body do you feel it? Maybe it's a tightness in your chest, or a heaviness in your shoulders and neck, or a knot in your stomach. Just notice. This is your nervous system's response to that belief. Now, here's the powerful part. Are you ready? Because this is big. Beliefs aren't facts. They're interpretations. And your nervous system will respond to whatever story you feed it. So, what if you tried on a different story? Not as a lie, not as toxic positivity, but as an experiment. Instead of, I'm behind, what if you told yourself, look how much I've already accomplished or grown, and I'm getting closer every day. Notice what happens in your body when you say that. Does it feel lighter, more spacious? Instead of, well, it's too late, what if you told yourself, okay, my dating experiences have taught me a lot about what I'm looking for and what's important to me, and now I'm ready to approach dating differently. Again, notice how it feels in your body. Does your breathing deepen? Do your shoulders drop slightly? This isn't just mental gymnastics. This is neural rewiring. When you consciously shift the story and drop into the feeling of the new story, you're literally creating new pathways in your brain. And the more you practice this, again, not just thinking it, but feeling it, the more your system starts to orient toward that reality. The second piece is learning to regulate your nervous system in real time. Because if you're going into dates already dysregulated, either hypervigilant because you feel inexperienced or checked out because you expect disappointment, it doesn't matter how good your conversation skills are. So this means simple things. Before a date, take 5 minutes to ground yourself. Feel your feet on the floor. Take a few deep breaths. Remind yourself that this is just a conversation, not a performance. You can download my free guide, the 5-minute pre-date pregame, which is linked in the show notes, for a more personalized ritual you can build that gets you in that good feeling place before the date. And remember, you're there to see if there's mutual compatibility, not to prove your worth. You are already worthy. Then during the date, if you notice yourself starting to spiral, overthinking, self-monitoring, bracing for rejection, pause. We've talked about this before, but practice the art of non-reaction. Feel your body, reconnect with the present moment. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. And after the date, regardless of the outcome, notice what story you're telling yourself. If the story is, see, I knew it wouldn't work, or, well, I probably fucked that up, catch it immediately. Replace it with something more neutral and compassionate. All right, that person wasn't the right fit, and that's okay. Or, I showed up as myself, and I'm proud of that. Or, we'll see what happens. Either way, I got to meet someone new and practice dating and tuning my radio dial. I'm getting closer to that clear channel. This is the work, okay? It's not tactics. It's not strategies to make yourself more attractive. The work is building a relationship with yourself that's grounded enough to stay regulated in uncertainty, secure enough to be authentic rather than performative, and self-aware enough to notice when you're operating from an old story instead of present reality. And look, I get it. This can feel like a lot to navigate on your own, especially if you've been stuck in one of these patterns for a while. This nervous system work, this pattern interruption, this story rewiring, it's what I do with men in my 90-day private coaching. But I know that private coaching isn't accessible or practical for everyone. Maybe you're constantly traveling for work. Maybe you prefer to move through material at your own pace. Or maybe you're just a more private person who wants to do this work without the one-on-one intensity. That's exactly why I created the Magnetism Mastery Playbook. It's the same framework that I use in my private coaching. The pattern identification, the identity work, the nervous system regulation, the connection tools, but designed for the man on the go. Bite-sized lessons that you can work through in your own time with big results in as little as 6 weeks. This is not about more dating tips or tricks to seem more confident. It's about doing the internal work that shifts how you show up so that you actually embody confidence. And dating stops feeling like something you're bad at and starts feeling like a natural expression of who you are. Now, the founding member enrollment has closed, but if you're listening to this and something is clicking, if you recognize yourself in these patterns and you want to be notified when Magnetism Mastery officially launches, you can join my newsletter or head to LinkedIn and DM me the word magnet. I'll add you to the list and you'll be the first to know when doors open again. Because here's the thing, you can keep spinning in the same patterns, or you can do the work that actually creates lasting change. The framework is ready. Question is, are you? Before we close, I want to say this directly. Wherever you are in your dating journey, whether you feel like you're just starting or you feel like you've been at this forever, you are not broken. You're not fundamentally unlovable or incapable of connection. You're just operating from a story that your nervous system learned to keep you safe. And that story made sense at the time, but it doesn't have to be the story that you keep living. You get to write a different one, not through willpower or positive thinking, but through genuine internal alignment, through actually seeing the pattern, understanding where it came from, and consciously choosing something different, and then acting from that place. And to the women listening, I hope this episode gave you some insight into what might be happening underneath the surface when you meet someone who seems maybe hesitant or guarded or overly careful. It's not necessarily anything to do with you. Sometimes it's about the story that they're carrying that they haven't learned to question yet. And while it is not your job to fix anyone, understanding the conditioning can help you approach dating with more compassion. Yes, for them, but also for yourself. It's not too late. You're not behind. You are right here, right now, with the opportunity to build something real. And that's exactly where you need to be. If today's episode landed for you, I invite you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like and subscribe button as it does help the podcast grow. And if you're ready to do this work, I'll see you inside Magnetism Mastery, or I'll see you next time on Stripped. Drop your patterns. Bye for now.